welcome once again to a very special EWTN Bookmark. We're here on the set of the Crossing the Goal show with the coach himself, Mr. Danny Abramowicz, talking about a new book, Crossing the Goal. This is the playbook on the Our Father, and it's published by Emmaus Road Press. Hey, Coach.
Big
great
Doug,
to see you
glad
here.
to be back again, man.
Yeah, it's nice. You know, last time we got to talk about the first playbook, which came out on the virtues.
Yeah.
We did it from the setup on top there, the anchor desk here. So I was jealous that time. Now I'm jealous. I wanted to get down into the red zone, into the pit.
Get to the pit,
into the pit.
Man.
But you promised you'd be nice to me, so I said I was. I was
you're
willing
a Jets
to do
fan.
it.
How can I be nice to you? You know
right.
What I mean?
Well, you know, after Don Maynard, you were a wonderful receiver. I have to admit, and George Sauer Jr. also I have to mention too. But you ran very good patterns, just like he did. Speaking of that, Crossing the Goal, you know, it's our television program.
Yes.
You've got a picture on the front of the book of you and Peter and Curtis and Brian Patrick, who does our Sunrise Morning Show on radio. So it's a real EWTN connection. Of course, Curtis and his wife had done a series with us a number of years ago. Peter's on The Choices We Face.
Yes.
So it's a real team effort for this team program, but it's not just a program, right?
Right. I'm glad you said it is a team. Just like EWTN as a family, we try to get that same concept as a team. You know, we're not individual. This show's not about individual. It's about team. And we have expanded it. You know, the daddy is the show. Mm-hmm. That's the daddy. And what sprung up from that is the website. And then we said, okay, and working with you guys, we said, let's take this thing on the road. You know, let's get out there with the people and get a feel for them. Because in the studio, you're doing it and you hope you're reaching, which we are reaching a lot of people. We found out we are reaching a lot of people.
You have. So when you've gone out, you've gotten that feedback.
Got that good. So we went to Columbus, and it's connecting to the group we want. You got to remember, the group we're after is that 85% of men do not go to church on Sunday. So
and the other 50% are ushers.
They're there or either sleeping or worried about the Jets Saints game ready to be on, or checking their phone. If it goes over an hour, they want to kill the priest and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's who we're after. We're trying to get those guys back in the pew, not only back in the pew, but in their families, active, practicing Catholics. We don't need any more Catholics just sitting in the pew. We need practicing. So when we took it on the road, thousands of guys showed up.
Really? Okay.
It really is. And we get to the point, I think what's made Crossing the Goal pretty good is we don't shy away from controversial issues. We try to handle them in the right manner. Right. But we also handle stuff that guys can say, wow, these guys are on target with this. This is happening in my life. And the reason we tell them that, we've been through that. We've done that.
And also, I think you've had a good reaction from the wives out there, women out there, either because of the idea of thinking this might be something their husband would be open to. Yes. And also, I would think sometimes maybe even getting a better understanding of the issues that maybe their husband is going through in their lives,
exactly.
Right?
Well, several things. You're right on target there. The set, first of all, is conducive to men because they're clicking and they think, oh, this is another sports center or something like this, and they start hearing about virtues, about Our Father, but in a way not exactly preachy, sort of just discussing it, you know. Right. Because we normally, Our Father, we don't even know what we're saying. Right. We take and slow it down.
Or sometimes it's presented in this kind of saccharine, kind of wimpy way.
Exactly.
Which a lot of guys really can't
relate to.
Right?
But watch this. The wives get them to start watching the show. And it's great. They sit down together and watch the show, because if the women can get by the idea that it's a man's show, the content is great. I don't care if male or female. Right. It's good.
You can get something out of it.
When Curtis and Peter do the game plan, I mean, they tie scriptures in, they tie the catechism in, they tie the fathers of the church. We're giving doctrinal stuff. But we're also practical.
Right. Let me jump onto that. You did something a little bit different in the last set of shows you just did.
Yeah. We did the first, we do them in series, as you well know. A series of normally 8 shows.
And those series, as they come out, are usually available on DVD.
On DVD. That's why we did DVDs, and that's how it ties in with the book.
And you assume to have one book for each of the series?
Maybe not each one, but ones we feel that it would be good.
So the first one was the virtues, and this one's the Our Father.
Our Father. We'll probably do the next one, A Godly Man is, whatever.
Okay.
Then, but what we've done is we've taken the content and broke it into those different segments, series we call it. But this first series we did just finished taping was on spiritual combat, which is really talking about the world, the flesh, the devil, the war itself. I mean, we got into some heavy stuff and talking about that, but we also we did a mini series on marriage and family and brought Peter's wife and Curtis's wife in, and it was great. It tied in and worked out well.
But your wife wasn't on the show.
She said she would kill me if I tried to get on the show, man. I mean, she was serious. I'm married to this little Italian, very quiet, but I've learned in 44 years of marriage, there's a time to clam up, Doug, and I clammed up on that one.
Okay. Well, let me ask you about that, too, with the spiritual warfare. Let's just talk about the show itself, and we talk about the book. Is that something that men relate to? I mean, when they hear that kind of, the devil and things like that, is that something guys relate to, or is that the kind of thing, that's an old story?
No, they don't relate to that. I think men relate to the fight, but what are we fighting for? They'll fight for the country, they'll fight for education, they'll fight for the political, they'll fight. But when it comes to spirituality, they don't realize the biggest battle out here, Afghan war and Iraq war, that's big time, that's bad news. The spiritual battle, if you read in Ephesians 6:10-12 and on, it's brutal. It's against powers and principalities, against the evil one, the devil. And the devil is alive and well.
And it's right against you and your family.
Against you
it's in the homeland,
and your family.
Right? I mean, it's the true terrorism going on.
Every day. When you wake up in the morning, it's not if the devil's going to attack, it's when is he going to attack and how many times is he going to attack. And he's a higher being than us. There's God, us down here, the devil's in between. We can't defeat him without God. So that's what we come out here and just told them in this series, men, this is no game. The Saints played the Colts in the Super Bowl. The Saints won. But the Colts get to come back next year to play and see if they can do it again.
Well, ultimately the Saints win anyway, right? That's the way it works.
In the end, though, in the spiritual battle, you go to one or two places. Heaven and hell. You got the choice. Not God puts you there. You do it. So the battle's on every day. And the devil is a liar, a cheat, the deceiver. And he's after me and you and our children.
Now, when you were playing football, you've been on your own spiritual journey. In fact, we did a program with you on a spiritual workout. You had a book that we also had talked about on that same topic, etc. So, I mean, you've come a long way in understanding this. I'm sure when you played, this was not your vision or version of the world. And don't you see a lot of people out there, this idea of heaven and hell, it's kind of this idea of that if there is a God, then he's all loving and all merciful, in which case he wouldn't have anybody go to some place that was so bad like you described. So ultimately, one way or the other, we're all going to kind of get in.
Well, that's the belief out here. But I was in the devil's workshop before. I didn't worry about it. He didn't have to spend much time on me. I was already doing his work for him. But when I start changing and I start realizing that, this is not the way to go. I couldn't find peace in that. I had money, I had awards, I had all these things. But I said, something's not right here. And then once I turned around, I started getting an understanding because the Lord allowed it, opened things up. I turned my life over to the Lord. Guys out here don't take it serious. God's going to do this, God's going to... No, if you read scriptures, the Lord Jesus Christ talks about there'll be wailing and grinding of teeth. There'll be this. There's a final damnation. There'll be a judgment. It's Jesus Christ speaking. I'm going to listen to what he didn't say that just to...
Right, but some people feel like saying, I'm on the team, I made the cut, I sit on the bench, I don't get hurt. I got to get out there and start fighting. I'm going to take some tough hits. And the idea is once you get into the battle, I'm sure with you found that as you turned away from that lifestyle and turned towards the Lord, though there was a lot of grace, there also was attacks showing up that never had before,
attacks out of this world, yes.
And people say, well, why do I want to open myself up to that?
Well,
especially a guy.
What's the guy want to do? Be indifferent? The worst thing in the world, the Lord says, I'll spew you out of my mouth. He says there's going to be attack. When you don't realize something, that's when you're in trouble. That a lot of guys will say, "Oh, that Christianity, that's for women and wimps." If it's so wimpy, jump in there and see how you like it. It's pretty tough. when a devil starts coming after you, attacked and all, you read Job. Read some about Job and find out.
Right.
But he realized that he had to depend on the Lord, because it's overwhelming.
Right.
Some of this stuff becomes overwhelming if you don't depend on the Holy Spirit.
Let me ask you let's talk about the playbook. So the playbook is designed to what? Go in tandem with the series? Can someone use the book on its own? Is it used to be used with a parish prayer group? Or
that's
how
what we try to do. Try to get them in groups in parishes. We're already set up, like we do a conference, or if they watch a show, in a show you can only get so much content in a period of time, 25 minutes of the show or something like that, true content. So, but there's much more in there. So how do you do that? You go back to your parish. They either have small groups already started, and we talk about small groups a lot. You're not on an island. You can go get involved, or you can start a group in the parish, and then you use the DVD.
Men need teams, right? They need teammates.
Teams and be built up with them. You need to be able to share. You and I talk quite often, and email and stuff like that, and talk about different things. And hey, what about this? We don't always agree on everything, but we come together. We get to talk about.
And then
things.
I do what you want me to do.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
You believe that out there. But we use this. You use the DVD, put it in as part of the group, as a large group, and say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, that doesn't matter. And you have your playbook there. You watch the kickoff and the game plan. And then you break into smaller groups. And with your
then
playbook,
you got this laid out all in the book, the whole schedule, how you can work it all in.
Time and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then you discuss what took place, and there's questions in there that helps the discussion. You know, we don't get into all the political things, and how it applies to Doug, you in your life, or Danny in your life. Don't talk about somebody else. How about in your life? What are you doing in this?
Right. One of the things I thought was interesting too, because again, guys aren't always so present with their feelings. They sit in those kind of sessions and they feel a little awkward, and usually it takes a while for guys to start to feel comfortable. A couple of things in the beginning I thought was interesting. You talk about be aware that there might be no-shows, let them know they're missed. But you also said tips for facilitators, I guess the people in the local parish. You say create a safe place. Everything said in the group stays in the group and is held in strict confidence.
So that's critical. Because what happens is when you go into a setting where it's spiritual, they have a lot of social clubs and all that. We're not talking about that. We're under the spiritual veil. So when you go in there and you start trusting, you and I together, and we start talking, and then you start sharing, I got a problem with pornography. And you say, well, let me tell you what I do. I had the same thing. You start sharing. The worst thing you could do is go out there and say, man, guess what, Danny, man, he's got problems.
I was really surprised to find out what the problem he's got there.
That'll destroy the group. We keep it in strict confidence, not even your wife or anyone, because you show, and then you build up transparency and accountability to one another. Because when we go back, after we do the show, we'll do the, we have the meeting.
Right.
Remember I told you we do the kickoff and the game plan, then we talk. Then we go back, listen to the red zone, and then we get discussion. And then at the end we come up with a game plan. It's action. If you look at, I'm about action. Our team is about action. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. Write it down and do something like 15 more minutes
and
of
you
prayer.
leave space in here actually for the guys to take notes inside the actual book itself.
But then, Doug, when we come back the next week, we start with prayer and a few songs.
So how often would
once a week?
Guys, once a week this would be.
And then the guy comes back and said, Doug, tell me about how it went last week with your game plan. We just do it for sure. All that stuff. No, wait a minute. Are you playing around here or you want to get serious? You want to do this? If not, don't get involved with this thing. Take it serious. And then what happens is that accountability thing starts, and then we start the program.
But also I would think somebody could come and maybe be quiet and not be sharing
you don't have to share.
Until they felt comfortable. I mean, a couple of things for dynamics I thought were good for men to know who might be thinking of something like this, of realizing that, some of the precepts that you use is don't allow one person to dominate the sharing, which happens to something. All members and their sharing are of equal value, no gurus.
There's no gurus.
Right.
There's only one guru, Jesus Christ. That's who the guru is.
Right, and you really go through the whole thing, the pregame, and if you've got questions in the section here, timeout. So you've got the elements that are in the show plus additional elements in the workbook, right?
Yeah, in the workbook you can go in a little bit deeper sharing and stuff, and start talking about things and jot them down. And take this home. Then you can go home and reflect on this. Then you have it at your house. You go through it. If you have another DVD, you don't need a lot of DVDs in the parish, just one or two to get it going, because you might break out at two different groups at two different times. You want to have, but then you can take this home. Not only watch this, you can use it at home for yourself. If you go, you have teenage boy, don't you? And there's other guys got teenagers out there. He says, "Guess what we want to do? Let's read the Bible tonight." Man, they'll be rolling their heads. "Oh, Dad, man, come on!" But if you say, Let's put the DVD and look at these guys here. Let's take a look at the
give me a
playbook.
few minutes. Take a look at this. See what you think, even.
And then you start sharing with one another. See what happens there? Plus in schools, boys' schools, especially boys' schools, they're always looking for stuff. And it's got to be tough teaching religion or theology in boys' schools. Oh man, this stuff again. But if you go in there and stick this in. And you start talking about manly issues. You talk about
it's perfect because, as our Holy Father has said, we really have to use all the various aspects of media that are available to us out there.
If Jesus Christ came back, he would really
because that's what the devil's doing, right?
Right. So. EWTN is great. It's a vehicle. iPods, BlackBerry. I think the Lord would use those. I think he still would do the personal touch.
Sure.
But I think he would use, especially with the young group, he would use text messaging. He would use iPods. He would use BlackBerries. He would use these various things.
Right.
We're looking all the time. How can we improve technology and stuff like that?
Right, and make it better and reach more people. In the format of the actual playbook, you've got the 2-minute drill, personal fitness action plan. Write out an action plan, kind of like we were just saying, commit to becoming spiritually fit by doing the following. So someone has to make a commitment.
Between him and God. Nobody else. That's
okay, so that's not something you share with the group later.
No, we're going to share it later.
Okay.
But you make a commitment. Don't put it, if you're not going to do anything, don't put anything. But why are you in this group? Or you want to prepare? Do you mean to tell me that Jesus Christ came down, suffered, died, buried, rose from the dead, ascended into heaven just for us to attend 11 o'clock Mass on Sunday, and that's it? I don't think that was the purpose. I think it's more, do you want to learn more about your faith? Do you want to learn about yourself? See, guys are afraid to look inside themselves. They don't like what they see. Well, look inside yourself.
Yeah, you say in here in one section, men are afraid to change.
Yes.
In the section, thy will be done, right?
Yeah, they don't want to change.
That's like a lot of times why they don't want to hear things in the first place, because it means they might have to change, right?
You ever notice guys got all kind of time for golf? They got all time in football. That's all great. Hey, I love all that stuff. But how much time are we spending on the spiritual that lasts, forever? These other things end, guaranteed.
Well, do you think it's because they don't believe that it's forever? Or they don't focus on it? Or they think mom's taking care of the religion for everybody? Or what?
All of the above. And guys just say, well, I'll get to it later. If you look at Matthew 24:42, when the Lord is coming, he doesn't say, Danny, I'm going to come to get you in about a month. There's no warning.
Right. No one knows the day.
No one knows the day.
Right.
So you think you're going to put this thing off? You need to reflect. To me, what we try to do on Crossing the Goal, we're not telling you what to do. We're telling you, if you want to change, if you want to think, these are the things you need to do. These are the things. We haven't dreamed this stuff up.
Right.
This is Jesus Christ stuff in the church.
Right.
That's what we're teaching.
Well, I think what's great too, I mean, especially with the coaching aspect of it, is you think of the connection right there, especially for guys. It would be like somebody coming to you and saying, Danny, how can I get a scholarship at college playing football? How can I get to be a pro? And you have to lay out and say, here's the playbook.
Yes.
You got to do this, this, and this. You have to work out. You have to practice. You have to do all these things. And people would say, I get it, coach. That's what I got to do. But if you do the same thing in the spiritual life, people go, do I really have to do this?
Yeah, do I have to do that? We go out there, if you think of guys out there, they spend all kind of time with their kids to make them better athletes, that's great. Right. We want to send them to the best schools. We start educating them at 3 years old now. We want them to go all the way to doctor. That's all great stuff. But we don't educate them in the spiritual part. You know why we don't? Because we're not educated. How can you teach anything if you don't have it? If you don't have it in your heart? See, our team has it in their heart. It's obvious. They have knowledge of it, but they have it inside. They practice it. It's part of their life. Right. It's not a one-shot deal. We want the McDonald's approach. Drive in, get it, and leave, and that's it.
And do you think also sometimes with Catholics we have a kind of clerical view of things, and so we kind of see, you know, religion as being something the priest or the sister took care of, and now maybe the quote-unquote professional Catholics who you see on EWTN and other places. But, you know, I don't really have to do that. If I go to Mass on Sunday, that's enough. That's all God's asking of me.
To me, you look at, there's a shortage of priests right now. The Lord could change this fast. Why do you think this is happening? One, we're not listening. You think he stopped calling men to the priesthood? We're just not listening. Plus, he wants the laity. The church is us. It's the clergy and the laity. We're not doing our part. We're easy to complain about the priest and stuff. They're doing great. Most of them are doing great. Now, some drop the ball. We're human. We're going to drop the ball. That's why I got erasers on pencils. But us as laity, what are we doing? Men, what are we doing? You go to a lot of masses. Who's on the altar doing the reading? Eucharistic ministers, all this stuff? Women. Right. The men are sitting back there. The ones that are there not doing anything, and the other ones are home or whatever they're doing. You got to get involved. You want the church changed? You want things in this country changed? You want men change. You change individually before collectively.
What in the section you have as you go through and break down the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses, it says, unforgiveness can eat you alive inside. It leads to anger and resentment. And then you say, you tell Danny's story, lured into a shaky investment by a friend he trusted. He lost thousands. He wanted to get back at his friend, but he suffered so much with the anger that he knew he had to forgive him. When he did, the relationship was restored. Do you think lack of forgiveness is a big thing for guys?
Oh, absolutely. You know,
that pride thing and everything?
It could be a father-son. Many times it's a father-son, something happened to hurt, or it could be a brother. It could be a friend, just like it could be a husband, wife. It could be whatever. Unforgiveness will eat us alive. It turns from anger to hatred, to revenge. And guess what? Sometimes the other person doesn't even realize it. It's eating you up. I had to go and forgive that guy for my sake, for my serenity.
Right.
It was driving me crazy. And then finally, I prayed, Lord, I hope one of these days we could get back together. And through a tragic situation, he had a problem with his daughter with cancer, called me, and we prayed together. He started crying, and we that relationship, he felt good, I felt good, and we went on.
Right, but he wouldn't have done that if you hadn't reached out to him.
Right, absolutely.
And do that. And like you said, let me ask you a question. We're talking about the style of the show, and then we can football background and things like that. It strikes me as interesting that years ago, America's pastime was baseball.
Yeah.
And now it's clearly football. You know, football is king. Why do you think that is? Has something changed in our culture that's reflected in our number one sport?
Well, I think the influx of so many in baseball, you have a wide Dominican Republic sending a lot of, Hispanic players are coming in from all over. Baseball is international. Football sort of the United States. There's football over in the other places, but even NFL try to go over there and do NFL Europe. They have their own soccer and stuff like that. Football is America, sort of. So is baseball, but it has more of an international flavor. Plus, football is violent.
Right, that's right.
Football. That's why I got these store-bought teeth and bad cranking knee and all that kind of stuff. I used to be 6'5". They knocked me down.
Oh, they whittled you down. Huh?
But that people like that, and when they can say what they want, but when they blow the whistle and they kick that ball off, it's real. It's not put together. It's not put on. It's real, and people know that. If you watch TV now, there's nothing but trash out there. Yeah. What's the only thing left? Good football, baseball, basketball, all that kind of stuff. I like college. I'm not an NBA guy, but when you watch EWTN, but you look at a lot of this other stuff, what are you going to gain from that? People see that they're tired of that. Once you start watching Desperate Housewives or all this other stuff, after a while, say, this is trash. What do you have left that you and your son could sit down and watch? NFL football.
Right.
take away some of the commercials.
And hopefully the crossing the goal as well. And in the one section here, I thought this was good, just as we're running out of time. Wake up or wimp out.
That's it. Wake up. It's time now. Time's short. Change right now. The time is now. These things are great. Take these into your parishes. There's a priest out there listening. Use these for your parishes.
Right. So you got the show, you got the DVDs that are available through our catalog, and you've got the original playbook on the virtues, and now you got the latest, and I'd say new and improved version of the playbook as well. I think it has gone on even to another level than the first one was.
You know, the EWTN, also our website.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Coach.
All right, Doug,
give me some time here in the Red Zone. Great. The one and only Danny Abramowicz, the coach, crossing the goal playbook on our Father. Check it out. Check us out next time right here on EWTN's Bookmark for the special program from the Crossing the Goal Center.